This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Every once in a while, you meet somebody whose life doesn't make sense, until suddenly it does. Today's guest is Chef Matt Lawson, founder of the Texas Food Championships. But if you only know him for that, you don't know the story. Long before he was building one of the largest culinary events in Texas, Matt was teaching swim lessons as a teenager, running a successful business before most kids had their first job. A chance meeting with Dave Ramsey changed everything. One simple question: if you could do anything, what would it be? His answer surprised everyone. I'd be a chef. He had never worked in a professional kitchen, no culinary background, no roadmap. Yet somehow that answer became the beginning of a journey that would take him through restaurants, luxury private chef work, major hotels, professional sports, entrepreneurship, banking, and even medical invention after his youngest daughter was born with Down syndrome. Along the way, there were seasons of incredible success and seasons where he found himself homeless, living out of his car, wondering why his life never seemed to move in a straight line. Most people would have called it starting over. Matt kept calling it the next assignment. Today, every one of those chapters seemed to point toward a single purpose: building a platform that doesn't just celebrate chefs, it elevates them. Scholarships, families, communities, young culinarians, an entire state. Maybe that's what this story is really about. Not success, not food, but discovering that sometimes God prepares you for your calling long before he reveals what it is. Chef Matt Lawson, when you look back now, do you think your life was ever random? Or were there those unexpected turns preparing you for what you're building today?
Almost my whole entire life, I've felt that my life has been random. Trying to figure out, honestly, where all the different pieces fit together. Multiple people have always told me in my life that I can't just settle on something. I'm always bouncing around and trying to figure out different projects. But now looking back on it and looking backwards, I've realized that all of the different pieces have formed into this absolutely phenomenal puzzle that I now call my life.
Chef, welcome to the show. And listen, you've lived a pretty interesting life so far, and I'd almost say there's a number of struggles.
There's been times that I've questioned myself. I've questioned if my career is going down the right path, if I'm making the right decisions, if I don't have the ability to be able to do something great. Unfortunately, I've really bit into the Instagram and social media game where you're looking at other people's lives and you're trying to figure out why they're going down certain paths and they're becoming successful, they're younger than you, everything like that. And based off of them staying down the exact same path, they've reached accomplishments that I look at and I'm like, why have not I not been able to be there yet? And through the course of bouncing to different things and different doors that have opened, I have gone through those struggles. It's only been recently that I guess, stopped analyzing what other people are doing and realizing that everything has kind of been woven together into a beautiful little package.
That's the social media trap. It happens to a lot of us.
Yeah.
I'm not shielded by that. I'm obviously online quite a bit, and I get to see a lot of stuff and meet a lot of people. And I also know a lot of it is it's a facade. It isn't real. I think the older you get, the more that becomes the realization. For me, anyway, it was something where I was able to kind of, let those. Man, I hate to say jealous, but it wasn't jealous, or envy, I guess is a better word. You're envious of other people, and it takes a little bit of time to learn how to drop that.
I've thought about it over the years multiple times. I've been questioned it from my parents, from other people, and for some reason, it's just it came out of nowhere. I mean, the funny part is, up until that point, I've never worked in a restaurant. I've never been a chef. I've never really cooked a ton in my life. Never been a server, anything of that nature. It's the only thing that came out of my mind at that time was I'd be a chef. And looking back now, I really truly don't believe that answer came from me. I believe God had a placing in my heart for it. Long before I, recognized it in myself. Sometimes I think our heart knows what God is doing before our minds can even make sense of it. Not one conversation changed the whole entire trajectory of my life. I mean, I was going to school for business and entrepreneurship, of which I continued, but I and that same degree has helped do other things in my life after that, but it's completely changed everything that I, was thinking I would do for the rest of my life.
After our prep call, and we've had a few calls actually over the last week or so,
Mhm.
and I feel like one of the most powerful parts of your story isn't isn't the ups where you had success. It's
Yeah,
when things were really low and you were living out of your car or you were between
yeah,
jobs. Um, when you're down, and listen, we've all been down in some fashion or another. Just about everybody. I don't know who wouldn't fall into that, but
mm,
when you're down, you learn stuff, and it
yeah.
brings you to the next plateau, the next phase. What was that for
Mm.
you?
Just resilience of not giving up. And whenever this podcast comes out, the scary part for me is even bringing this up is this is going to be probably one of the first times that my parents have even heard of this story, which is crazy to me. It was going through chasing dreams that I had in my own thoughts and minds as the direction I needed to go, and I wasn't listening to God at the time. I was trying to create my own path and do my own thing, and unfortunately, that completely and utterly fell apart. And I guess not unfortunately, that was probably one of the biggest blessings in my whole entire life. So we are sitting there with about $160 in my account, living out of a car, with a one-shot opportunity to be able to get a executive chef position that, by the blessing of anything, came also with an apartment complex directly next door. Um, so got myself to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and um, had one shot. Got a membership to the Lifetime Fitness that was just right up the road, so I could be able to shower and do everything like that before I went into the interview. Um, Ended up being able to cook for him and landed the food and beverage director and executive chef job at the Mayo Hotel. When I look back now, I see two different lessons that learns. Number one, if we go against what we feel has been placed in our heart by God, and we try to create and false idol ourselves as our own, then these negative things can happen, and we have to. Allows us to fall on our face and say, "Hey, shake it off. I told you so. Now let's pull it back together and let's get you back on the right path." So that's what I felt through there.
Your parents didn't know that you were living in your car?
No, sir, they did not. I was too proud and I was too ashamed, as everybody in my life was telling me not to go down the path that I was going down, chasing a girl, chasing a family that was trying to buy me to stay with them. And when I went down the path, everybody, pastors, parents, friends, everybody was telling me that I was going down the wrong path at that time. And I just didn't want to listen. In my own heart, I knew it wasn't the right path. It was just too stubborn to be able to do anything about it. When that whole entire relationship went south and I had nowhere else to go, that is when I ended up having my car and a gas station right outside of Joplin, Missouri, on the route straight to Tulsa, Oklahoma, was my home. Did have a job at the time, working at a restaurant and bar. So I would go at nighttime, work, do everything like that, go back to sleep, and come back the next day. I try to keep myself as busy as possible during that time. But no, I was too proud to ask anybody for help. I was too proud to say everybody was right and I was wrong. So I just kept pushing forward until I got over the hump.
I have to think that this was sort of self-inflicted. You could have gone to your parents and your parents would have helped you, or did you have a bit of a strained relationship, or what were you thinking about? What was in your head?
No, this is 100% self-inflicted. My parents would have helped me. They would have shown me grace and said, "Yeah, we told you so. I hope it hurt, but come home." But that's not the path that I ended up choosing at that time.
So as you're homeless, You get a job at the Mayo Hotel. Gorgeous property, stunning actually. That had to lift you into some pretty high spirits.
No, the Mayo Hotel was great. I was in very good spirits at that time, but for some reason I was still lost for a little bit, and mainly because I haven't seen family for a while. I had a couple different stints outside of the state of Texas before that, so
This episode is brought to you by Trimark, the largest food service design, equipment, and supplies provider in North America. Trimark works directly with operators, bringing design build expertise, supply sourcing strength, project management, installation, and servicing together to power smarter hospitality kitchens. Learn more at trimarkusa.com.
it all kind of brought me back there, and I loved my job. My parents came up and saw me while they were there. They were very proud. We redid the whole entire food and beverage program, reinvested in the restaurants, and brought a new feel to that place. So it was a wonderful feeling knowing that just weeks before that or months before that, depending on how long I was there, I was in my car.
So there's a story that you told me, and I think it's kind of apropos to your personality type. You went to culinary school, and on the night of graduation, you decided to open a restaurant.
Yeah, I was blessed in Dripping Springs in my hometown of being offered a position as the executive chef while I was in culinary school of a restaurant called the Koi Lantern, which was an Asian fusion style restaurant. So I was going to Le Cordon Bleu, graduating French cuisine, and my grand opening for that restaurant was the day I was graduating and walking across the stage from culinary school, which was a blessing and also a curse because while I was up there on stage, I was dumb and invited the whole entire audience to come to my grand opening at the restaurant. Um, and it still went over well, but it was fun.
Yeah, but that takes a lot of stones, man, to do something like that. You have to be a little bit there's an element of shock that's in your personality to be and to kind of do all of these different position shifts and career pivots. That's kind of your makeup. So for you to walk away from the parents and kind of turn your back and do your own thing and live in your car and I understand that. I didn't live in I've never lived in my car, but I did have a couple of a year or two in my 20s where my living arrangement wasn't peak. Food was tight. I slept on a floor in an inside of an apartment with no mattress for I don't know, probably 4 months, something like that, 5 months.
Absolutely.
So I understand the struggle, and I also understand the feeling of breaking out of that and just getting back to what we all consider like a normal existence. When we first met on the phone, Matt, I didn't realize you were a chef. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks, and I know that you're very much on this track of the Texas Food Championships, which we're going to get into in a minute. But I have to tell you, I'm so happy that we got to meet under the circumstances that we did. The fact that you are a chef, and not just for a couple of years, you have almost a 20-year career in the business.
Yes, sir.
It really opened my thought process up to the things that we can do together.
No, I appreciate that, and I was honored to meet you through Pooch and a bunch of other phenomenal people who have all kind of formed and created this little bond to be able to help elevate Texas cuisine and through our Texas Food Championship and even just other collaborations and partnerships that we've been working on. So I'm excited to move forward and be working with you guys.
Yeah, that was through Pooch and Hunter Boone, right?
Correct. Yeah.
The conversations with Hunter, with you, and with Pooch, all of a sudden there's this whole new pathway of amazing stuff that we're going to start breaking over the next I don't know, I guess over the next weeks, months, whatever.
There's been some phenomenal collaborations and synergy. Seems like there's a group of people in the state of Texas and in this country that see a path for food and want to elevate it in a different way. And so yeah, we're excited to kind of start exploring that and building it together.
You have 3 children, and you've been a hard worker and a dedicated either owner or employee for a very long time. When your youngest daughter was born with Down syndrome, life didn't just change, it literally completely redirected your priorities.
Yeah.
How did becoming her father reshape the way that you define success?
So Mia with Down syndrome, it's a little bit different. So what I started realizing on success is that success comes through time, success comes through patience, and success comes through literally just being happy to be there, being present, being with people, and helping elevate others. So, Mia, for instance, with Down syndrome, takes 3, 4, 5 times longer to be able to learn something than other people, but she can do it. So we're still at 6 years old that she is now. We're still going through the potty phase stage where she's still in diapers, but she can still do it. And what's crazy on that is as simple as it seems, where most parents can teach their kids to be able to be potty trained in year, 2 years, maybe 3 years at some, and she's still doing it at 6 years old. The excitement that she sees on her face, or that we see on her face, when she's used the potty on her own, she's flushed on her own, and seeing her jump up and down for joy because she knows she did something good. Those are successful moments that are unbelievable and what changed our life because we realized, okay, so this these things, these material possession things like bigger houses, newer cars that we see other people doing online and saying, hey, how are they so successful at that age? Or what are they doing right that I'm not doing?
Walk and Talk Media is proudly supported by Rack Porcelain USA, creating durable, beautifully designed tableware for chefs and hospitality professionals. Learn more at rackporcelain.com.
That gives you perspective to take a step back and say, hey, we're building something different. It's going to take time. It's going to work out in the end, but we just have to be patient. So we've been able to take and learn from our 6-year-old daughter that sometimes in life it's not a quick path, but success is possible as long as we keep going in the right direction.
You're a dedicated guy. You're one of these people that's very committed. You have an internal energy that you're able to harness. And I'm telling you this because this next part, when most parents would have simply accepted the medical equipment that they were given, and I'm referring to when Mia was in the NICU,
Yeah.
there were some medical devices that when she was born, there was clearly, they were very uncomfortable and you could see it, on the baby. Instead of just taking the word of it from these medical professionals, you decided instead to go and invent a better solution. And not only did you invent a better solution, but eventually it got acquired by 3M. I think that is one of the most amazing stories ever. And if I were able to do a, short documentary film on just that, I think it would be pretty amazing because I have two children, and one of them, we had some complications at birth, and my daughter was had to stay in the hospital for almost 2 weeks, a little longer than 2 weeks, and it was brutal. It's
Yeah.
brutal when you a new parent is dealing with something like that, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and all of the emotions that go with it. And here you are, you're like, no, you know what? Let's fix this, man. I just give you so much respect for that.
Yeah. Mia was born, placed in NICU, was not eating the way that a normal child or a normal baby would eat in general. She had to eat through a nasogastric feeding tube. And the reason for that is she was not gaining weight fast enough. Mia had to have open heart surgery at a very, very young age, and they couldn't have the open heart surgery until she reached a certain size. So, to be able to help with that, they had to place a nasogastric feeding tube through her to be able to help support her eating habits, of which she did for the first year of her life. And through that, there's a device that holds on the tubes on the cheek. So if you see a picture of Mia now, you'll still see what looks like rosy red cheeks on both sides, and that is from permanent scarring from the device that was used and still in some hospitals is currently used, that secures the devices onto their cheeks. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It broke our heart seeing her cry every single time we had to remove it. But it's been in existence. It's been what every hospital has used for, 20 years. So we reached out to the doctors and said, is there anything else? They let us know no. And then I let them know that I was going to be redeveloping and redesigning and something new. I'm not an engineer, never had any medical device experience, but we started doing as much research as we possibly could and came up with a device that was patented, approved by the FDA, and able to be sold in the United States, EU, and Australia within 9 months. The only negative is that we finished the device about 2 weeks before Mia was blessed with being able to be taken off the nasogastric feeding tube. It was acquired by 3M, manufactured in Fort Worth, Texas, here, and still is in production going out to hospitals all over the world, hopefully, still.
I I mean, that's amazing. So, you know, I have family members who are in the medical field, and typically speaking, how do I say that nicely? They know what they know, and it's hard to, change any minds. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so when a patient or or a patient's, parent says, well, I'm just going to go ahead and design a better way. You must have been, they must have laughed at you or kind of blew you off or,
Mm.
okay, sure, sir. Let us know. Like,
Yeah.
how did that go down?
It's there's some that did, and then you have the right doctors, the right surgeons, the right people who were there with the right heart. So we actually had one doctor at Driscoll Children's Hospital. She's the one who is the encourager. She's the one who her name's Dr. Goya. She's absolutely phenomenal, and she's Mia's cardiologist there. She kept coming up every single week that we would go into the hospital, and she was like, hey, where are you at? Where are you at? Tell me what you need. What do you need support with? And she was there every step of the way because she knew that it needed to be changed. It needed to be fixed. So yeah, we did have some doctors that and nurses that were like, yeah, okay, dream on. And then there's other doctors that were right there knowing that the fight was real and that, they wanted to be there to help support it.
That should be a Netflix documentary. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I think that's such an amazing story.
Thank you.
You've built businesses, restaurants, medical products. You've been the president of a bank. You have all sorts of relationships. Like, man, honestly, like, if you were to compile a list of all of the places that you've been, that you have made a living from, it's pretty extensive. And yet, every
Thank you.
time you succeed, you seem to build something for somebody else. Um, I mean, why has your life always been more about creating opportunities rather than collecting accomplishments? Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Metro Food Service Solutions, trusted by kitchens that need storage and workflow that actually does the job. Learn more at metro.com.
Yeah. I think when I was younger, I fell in the same thing that I wanted to collect accolades. I wanted to collect, awards and do everything like that. Um, but over the years, I think my heart's changed to being a heart of a servant. That's what I would prefer. Ever since I was younger, I mean, I'm talking middle school, elementary school, you know, people have always said to me, or even my parents have joked around saying that I'm too giving. I'm always too interested in how to be able to help other people before I do anything on my own. Um, and over hearing that from people my younger days, I briefly switched from that during my high school, college, and after college career time frame where I was trying to focus on myself and trying to figure out how to be able to get the awards and the accolades and build businesses for myself and everything like that. And over the course of, yeah, I guess going back to the living in the car and hitting rock bottom, did I realize that I was doing things wrong and I needed to go back to living for other people.
When you hit bottom, did you actually turn your back on your faith?
When I was going through the process, I did. When I was actually going through the process of living out of my car, I did. Um, and I probably wasn't the best of Christian at the time that I was living against what everybody else and my own heart was telling me. Um, I when they're all sitting there telling me that I'm making the wrong decisions, doing the wrong things, and not trusting God's life 100% was turning away. Um, I believe when I was shown grace by getting the job opportunity to go to Tulsa is when my faith really turned around. But on building businesses and doing what we have, I mean, we've we've even failed on some aspects when we're trying to think of other people. So, for instance, like all these stories and these businesses and the success is good, but one a recent incident or recent business that we just built, my wife and I, we had a calling in our heart that when we lived in Port Aransas, we had a calling to be able to create a spirit store to be able to help generate love of the community, just like we see in some other towns around the state of Texas and the country, where they're all bought in on their school. They support their school, they support their students, they support their community. And we decided that we wanted to build a spirit store to be able to help drive that community forward. So my wife and I invested a significant amount of money from one of the other businesses that we sold. And we decided to go all in building a spirit store for our town. And we failed. We didn't fail because it wasn't a good idea. We didn't fail because, you know, it's, it wasn't wanted. We failed because we financially couldn't support it because over on a month to month basis, um, it just wasn't making the kind of money in a small town. But the hard part was that people in that town looked at us and saw us not as attempting to try something for the betterment of the town. They looked at us and saw us as failures. Um, and they looked at us and saw us as, hey, you started this business, you couldn't run it, you couldn't do it, you failed. Not knowing everything else that was successful in our life, they just saw that as, you know, you built something, you couldn't do it, and you failed. So even though I believe in my heart that everything we're doing is for the betterment of society, betterment of the other people. I mean, the Texas Food Championship trying to elevate people, elevate chefs, elevate brands, and create a synergy all together. The medical device, everything like that. It's you're right. It is we're always trying to build in a way to be able to do something for other people. And I think the big story, or not the story, I think the big thought process that goes through my mind is when I was younger and then I was in Boy Scouts.
Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Crab Island Seafood Dip, creating chef-driven crab dips made with real seafood and bold flavor. Learn more at crabislandseafooddip.com.
We would always go on camping trips. And at the end of the camping trip, after we take down our tents, after we pack up our backpacks, everything like that, we're told to leave the campsite better than we found it. So we would all get in lines. We'd go and pick up trash. We would scrape up any additional campsite, campfire cooking areas. We would make sure that everything looked better so the next people who came in would see something prettier and better than what we saw when we first walked there. So I think businesses that we're creating, things that we're doing, how do we be able to create and leave something behind to our kids or the next generation that is better than what we grew up and how we saw it? Is there a better medical device than what we had available? Is there better competitions and better camaraderie, better elevation status for chefs than there were before? Is there better ways to be able to put brands together? Is there better ways to be able to do different things? And I think that is what kind of energizes me to being able to do everything that we're currently doing. What way can we be able to create a better life for the next generation?
And that's amazing. At the end of the day, there's going to be judgmental people out there. And a lot of the ones who are judgmental are the ones that have never taken risks or have never tried to start something themselves. And it's easy for them to point a finger and say, hey, you're a loser or a failure or something like that. But the truth is, you can't be the best winner without having some loss. I believe that. I
Yeah.
think that there needs to be, you have to have your slice of humble pie. And
Yeah.
I think that's for most people. Is it for everyone? Maybe not. Maybe there are some other individuals that are operating at a higher level, um, mentally, physically, emotionally, and maybe they don't need to fall on their face, but most of us do, and it
Yeah.
keeps us in check, and it's something that you're able to. I think you're able to enjoy the good times better,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
appreciate the good times.
Yeah.
So the Texas Food Championship wasn't built after success; it was built during uncertainty. Uh, you told me that you and your wife walked away from your job and ultimately you kind of, it's like a big bet. You kind of gambled on putting this together. You were the president of a bank and you said, "Meh, you know what? I'm going to give it up and let's do this." What made you do that?
We believe, my wife and I believe in this vision, in this mission of what we're trying to accomplish. It was terrifying. I mean, yeah, I was a branch president for Value Bank in Port Aransas, a great institution that gave me the opportunity to be able to do this on the clock, being able to build this platform of which we were running a bank, doing all the mortgages, everything like that for people, commercial and residential, and then building this at the exact same time. We finally just got to a point that, to be honest, I had a fiduciary duty to be able to respect the people that believed in us and gave us sponsorship donations and dollars, and to be able to put their brands behind this. They believed in us. And so when my wife and I, we sat down at a table and we said, hey, we have multiple companies, hundreds of thousands of dollars of donations for people that believe in our vision and our mission. And I want to make sure that we're representing them to the absolute 100% best ability. And I'm scared that if I'm only being able to do this part time because we're running the bank the other half of the time, and then on top of that, kids, and on top of that, sports and everything like that, I do not feel that we're going to be able to represent them the absolute best way that they deserve to be represented.
This session of Walk and Talk Media is made possible by Citrus America, delivering fresh Florida citrus and juice solutions to food service professionals nationwide. Learn more at citrusamerica.com.
And I said that what's terrifying is that we would be leaving our salary, that, we're doing well there, and we'd be walking away from guaranteed money to something that is completely unknown. And even now, I get questions. My parents ask me probably every other week, which, I mean, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they said, "Okay, well, what will you do after this? Like, what are you gonna do after the festival?" No, we keep building and building and building upon here. So when we had that mission to be able to create this, and we sat down, I thought it was gonna be a hard conversation with my wife. She was going to probably need to be the smart one there and say, "Hey, um, we're making good salary. You you need to try to figure out a way to be able to do both, and we can't put our lives in that predicament." But she didn't. She was as honest with me and said, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I believe in you, and we'll figure it out." And so I put in resignation and left the bank. Still trying to support them as best as possible, give them, because they gave us the opportunity to do this. I still want to represent who they are, because they wanted the same thing, to bring something phenomenal to the community. But we decided to leave it and start doing this full time. But I can't tell you it's been easy. There's been times through this process that we've, because she runs a small business at the same time, and we have to pick up odd and end things to be able to make and pay the bills and do everything like that. We've had our electricity turned off during this process. We've had our water turned off. We get it turned back on fairly quickly, but I mean, there's been time frames that we've been 100% paycheck to paycheck while building this whole entire infrastructure, um, to where we truly believe it can be. And you know and we've gotten there. We've pushed through it. So it's been a diehard family, pull together, but we've made it happen.
I think when a husband and wife can be on the same page for something like this, I mean the percentage and chances for success are, I don't know what that increase is, but it's going to be quite a bit. When you're not
Yeah,
fighting your spouse over what your career path is going to be, the stress, there's an element there, there's a stress there that I think is heavier than probably almost any other type of stress that's out there. There's nothing
yeah,
harder to deal with than an unhappy spouse, your significant
no,
other, your husband, your wife, whoever. And at the end of the day, you sounds like you're successfully navigating that. If 20 years from now someone asks, "What was Matt Lawson's greatest accomplishment?" What do you hope the answer is?
I hope it has very little to do with any businesses I've built, any titles or festivals I've created. I truly hope that people state that I lived with a servant's heart. Um, you know, as I've grown in my faith, I've realized that Jesus completely changed the world's definition of leadership. He didn't lead by seeking recognition, he led by serving others. And that's the man that I hope to become. I'm nowhere near that yet. I know that. I know every single day we try to get closer and closer and closer by doing anything that we possibly can. But that's my goal. I want to be remembered for what we helped others do and for how we treated other people. And I would love for somebody to say, Matt believed in me before I believed in myself, because that would be a full circle moment for me. Dave Ramsey and others believed in me before I believed in myself. These brands that believed in our vision for the Texas Food Championship before I could fully believe by stepping away from the job, believed in us before. So I want to showcase to other people that I believe what they can do before they can believe in it in themselves.
Matt, where do you get your courage from?
I don't know, man. Uh, I've had phenomenal parents growing up that have put us in positions of, to be around great leaders, see great things. Uh, but I think at the end of the day, I want to do what's best for, my kids, make them proud, make my wife proud, and make up for all the bad things and bad decisions I've made and everything like that. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards. I want to help other people go forwards. And um, I don't know. I might be. I might have courage, but I'm also scared.
4 out of 5 hospitality professionals have faced at least one mental health challenge during their career. Stress, burnout, anxiety. These are everyday realities in kitchens, dining rooms, and bars across North America. The Burnt Chef Project North America is here to change that. They provide free, anonymous support, direct care, training, and self-care resources designed specifically for chefs, servers, and hospitality staff. From therapy services to educational modules, they're answering the call for help in one of the toughest industries. It can't be done alone. Your financial support makes this possible, ensuring that every hospitality professional has access to the tools they need to thrive. Join the movement in breaking the stigma. Email uscanada@theburntchefproject.com for donation details and mailing information, or learn more about the mission at theburntchefproject.com.
At the same time, and I'm scared to fail people. I'm scared to do things like that. But at the end of the day, I have people, kids, looking up to me to be able to help do any part I possibly can to help change 0.000% of the world, and I just want to try to help do it.
Getting this Texas Food Championship off the ground, a lot of people didn't think you could do it.
Yeah.
And yet somehow you're in the home stretch.
Yeah.
What's the feeling like when people do tell you, man, that's a crazy idea, or you can't get that done, there's no way?
Yeah.
Something inside you says, I'm going to reassess and I'm going to figure this out. What's the process? How do you see it through?
Yeah. I've been told, I mean, at the very beginning of this process, we were trying to have this festival in Port Aransas, and long story short, based off of other things, and I'm assuming it goes all the way back to when we failed at our small business there, that they didn't think that we were going to be able to pull this even off, and they refused to approve our permits to be able to do things all the way to the city level. So I look at that as that's a whole entire city structure that's not believing in us. That's not believing in me. That's not believing in this vision. And it broke me, where we didn't think that this process was actually going to happen. And then we stopped, breathed, and reassembled ourselves. And then I decided to make a call to the city of Corpus Christi, which is 10 times the size of or bigger than Port Aransas was. It has a lot more opportunity, but it also would come with a lot greater cost. So we're looking at a $150,000 event, $200,000 event in Port Aransas, and we're looking at about a $1.1 million event if we moved it to Corpus. And so after regrouping and deciding that we weren't going to go down unless we were fully swinging, reached out to Corpus, and the whole entire thing took a different shape. It exploded. Everything positive that possibly could have happened has happened. The right people, the right momentum, the right brands, the right chefs coming in, everything has happened to completely explode an event. And then when you look back at it again, you're like, wait a minute, we're October, end of October. This event needs to be in September, which is less than a year away, and we're starting with $0 in the account to be able to create this event. We just signed a contract for World Food Championships to be the exclusive Texas qualifier at $120,000. And now we have to make this happen. And so we have less than a year to come up with $1,100,000. And I've never seen that in my account in my life. So what do we do? And yeah, we just dug down deep, started knocking on doors, not taking no for an answer, figuring out ways to do things, cutting costs where we need to. So for instance, like if people go to our website, I'm sure it could be better, but I couldn't afford to pay somebody 10 grand to build it one. So I just taught myself how to build one. All the social media stuff, I'm sure we could do better, but we can't pay that out at that time. We have to budget for other infrastructure items that desperately need to be there. So we build them. And we found phenomenal volunteers to join our executive team, to be able to do what they do in their lives, to all come together from all over the state that have helped build this. So it's been absolute phenomenal journey, but we're there. We're done. We're putting the bows on the top. We pulled it off, but I broke down in tears when I paid the last of the World Food Championship bill because I knew I did it. I broke down in tears when you gave me this phenomenal opportunity to be on this call and podcast with you. I mean, there's certain times in this process that it's not me. And I know it's not me. This might be a food and beverage event, but there's a bigger purpose here that is far beyond us just putting on a festival. This is a way for people to come together and understand there's somebody up there that is running this world. And if there's a positive thing to be able to unite people together, to be able to showcase and help support the next generation, and to be able to elevate communities in general, he's going to lead the way. It's not me.
I got to tell you, man, that was pretty awesome. You're saying the right stuff. I can't wait to see what's going to happen at this event. I can't wait to experience it with you. How do people find you, Matt?
Yeah. They can go onto our website, texasfoodchampionship.com. You can also follow us on all the social media channels. It's just Texas Food Championship across the board. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything like that.
Excellent. I am going to be heralding this to my people and our team and our followers and audience. Matt, I appreciate you spending this time with us. God bless. Amen. And we are out.
Summer is here, which means we all want to look and feel our best. A GLP-1 may be right for you. Visit orderlymeds.com to learn more about which GLP-1 you could be eligible for. Getting started is fast, easy, and happens virtually through telemedicine from licensed professionals. Check it out for yourself. Go to orderlymeds.com/podcast. That's orderlymeds.com/podcast. Taking care of yourself feels great. Compounded medications are not FDA approved. Eligibility required and determined by a licensed provider. Individual results may vary. See website for details.